How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? VenomousStare back with Starcraft II, 2 versus 2, on a map called Distant Plain. This is a fun map with a lot of gold bases. In the top left, Savagewood of the Out and Out clan and his brethren, a ramp. They're both playing Zerg, so a little bit of double Zerg action going on. And their opponents today, from the NA Bro clan, are Zellarm and Kellarm. So this kind of reminds me of back in the day whenever you would see RuneScape range pures who would have very similar names because these guys have such similar names and they're obviously duoing together, and they have this little picture of the troll face and he's wearing a pimp hat. He has some sort of gold wreath below him, or feather. Kellarm has expanded, just like Savagewood. They're about even in workers. Zellarm has a nice little wall off here. Whenever you have a Zerg ally, it can be very daunting to wall off, but versus double Zerg, even if you have a Zerg ally, you should aim to wall off, because walling off, it might seem like a huge pain in the ass to do during the game, in a team game, but actually walling off severely inhibits a lot of the aggressive strategies that Zerg can do in the early game, and enables your Zerg ally to play more greedy. It seems easier just to selfishly make everything in your main, but oftentimes the SimCity can be the difference between your ally getting a huge lead or not. 2 Stargates coming up for Zellarm. This play is, I would say, cheesy, abusive, aggressive would all be good words for it. But on this map, Distant Plains, usually you do see airplay. Now the reason that you see airplay is because you can spawn close by air. So for instance, both the blue Zergs could be spawned bottom left. Now watch this rush distance. Right there. Like shorter than Steps of War, pretty much rush distance from main to natural mineral line. So you see this abused all the time. Often with oracles, which is what we see right now, but even with Terrans, they'll try Banshee plays or Liberator sieges. People love to see siege Liberators out into this dead space, or Medivacs. So on this map, you always have to be wary of being attacked on this mineral line as well as this one, but often you will also be attacked right here if they spawn in this position. So you have to be wary of where your opponent spawns on this map and where their first air attack is likely to come. Now with cross positions, it's very difficult to figure it out. Notice 2 more oracles on the way for Zellarm. A ramp has 2 queens out, Spore is on the way for Savagewood, and 3 queens with 9 range are going to be able to deal with this. The oracle gets backed into a corner as a Hydra pops and it dies. 2 more oracles are out for Zellarm. Now he's going to fly them around and try to harass the top side. However, it is worth noting that if you do elect to make this many oracles, and you notice your opponent has a lot of anti-air, you can just use them for stasis wards and tagging, and they're very, very useful. Red Zerg player's Zergling speed is about to finish. He delayed it and got a few roaches. And A-Ramp is probably going to lose his gold here. He and his buddy Savagewood are going Roach Hydra, but A-Ramp simply put does not have enough roaches to support Savagewood's Hydras. Whenever you go Roach Hydra, you have to have a lot of roaches to tank for the Hydras. The Hydras do superior damage, they can shoot up, and they're really the superior unit if you just look strictly at DPS. But when you consider how little health that the Hydralisk has, it really has to have something in front of it to tank, or it will lose in terms of cost efficiency. So A-Ramp, notice he's not mining gas. This is a result of the Oracle harass. And it's something that you have to consider. Whenever you harass your opponent, you're doing more than just the chance of killing drones or killing a queen. They always have to go back to macroing, and they always have to readjust and reallocate their workers properly. And sometimes you mess up, especially if you get attacked unexpectedly in another spot, And this is what's happening to A ramp. His gas is just not where it needs to be. His minerals are out of control. Savagewood is going Hydra Ling. Protoss Air is going to be the choice for Zelarm. Kellarm thinks that he has an advantage here. He sees a couple Hydra up here. He's going to push up into the ramp but get flanked. So Savagewood comes in with the big flank, and he has enough Lings to stop a lot of this army. And suddenly, Kellarm doesn't have nearly as big of an advantage as he thought he did. Void Rays are out for Zelarm. He has 4, he's about to have 6. Now this is very important. A-Ramp did take a little bit of damage, but he desperately needs to provide a tank, kind of a meat shield for Savagewood. Savagewood has these slow Hydras, but these Hydras absolutely eviscerate Void Rays. We can see Savagewood has focus fire onto the Voids. He has attack moves queued up onto the Voids, so whenever his Hydras finish focus firing one Void, they'll go to another. So the micro of this is very important, because if Savagewood or Zelarm miss micro for a moment, a lot of it can snowball and the blue Zerg team will just be able to overwhelm if Zelarm doesn't micro. He really needs help from Kellarm. He needs to micro with his ally, and Savagewood picks off just one Void Ray, and suddenly A-Ramp is sent back reeling. Zelarm has this gold base. This will become a huge problem for the Out Now clan if he's allowed to go into mass air. He has 4 Stargates up, does not quite have the economy to support it, but one more base economy, it will be very, very hard for the blue team to do anything. Void Rays coming out, Zelarm not looking at his army, Savagewood kiting forward like he was MKP kiting Marines, picks off almost 3 Void Rays, one of them very low, might grow down, there it is, there's the third. And another Void Ray very low. A-Ramp surges forward a little bit, loses some units for free, but throws up some nice corrosive bile there as a parting gift. In team games, it's very difficult to counter Protoss Air with Zerg, even with corrosive bile and fungal and the other tools that you have to deal with it, like the Viper. It can be difficult, especially in conjunction with another unit composition, because oftentimes in the mid game the Zerg response is Hydra. Well, Savagewood and A-Ramp are trying to go a Roach Hydra mix. A-Ramp's the guy at the front, Savagewood is the guy at the back. The red team is out upgrading the blue team here. Savagewood is pretty severely out upgraded, and A-Ramp is even worse off. But there is a weak point in Protoss Air where you don't really have the critical mass of capital ships, and you don't really have the critical mass of support units. So if A-Ramp and Savagewood can hit a nice timing off the back of A-Ramp's creep spread here and constantly reinforce, then they could potentially take this game here, because once again the Void Rays are out in the middle of the map. There are 6 of them. There are more of them now, but a ton of Hydras out for Savagewood, and these Hydras will almost one-shot Void Rays, and by one-shot I mean kill the Void Ray off in 1 or 2 volleys if all of them shoot at the same time. And A-Ramp just has a crushing number of Roaches here. Huge, huge upgrade advantage for Kellarm, but Kellarm gets surrounded by A-Ramp's superior numbers, and completely cut off are the Void Rays, and suddenly the Protoss player loses the army that he's been working to get pretty much the whole game. He's teching into Charge Zealot, so he's not just a shitter trying to go mass air with nothing else, but his money has ballooned a little bit with the gold base income. And suddenly A-Ramp and Savagewood are at the front door. One base goes down, and even though the Void Rays are being microed pretty well, the Hydras are in such a plentiful number that the DPS is too much to deal with. And Zelarm is also trying to make Zealots, but doesn't really have the appropriate number of gateways. The fact of the matter is Zelarm was relying on his ally, Kellarm, to provide a meat shield, and he was really relying on just his Protoss Air Death Ball, excuse me. And whenever the Zerg player lost his production that the blue team was sitting on top of, he wasn't really able to produce as much as he needed to in terms of larvae. And if we look at this, Savage would shut down mining at the gold, and the blue team's going to charge up the ramp. Savage would shuts down the cannon. A ramp storms the gates like Robert Baratheon. And Zellarm leaves the game. He's mad his Protoss air didn't work. Good old 2 Stargate. 2 Stargate Oracle didn't work out, and Savage was going to burrow a couple lurkers in the front door here just to really drive the point home that 2 Stargate, it's a pretty evil thing to do. And Savagewood continues to shut down the mining. A-Ramp comes in, helps, and that's the game. Subscribe if you like more and want to see more.